find that voice so creepy every time. But good morning, Karlia. We're finally recording. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today. And I'm so honored you agreed to be our Shero of the month. And I'm so happy I'm starting my day with this interview.
Me too. Thank you very much for choosing me. That's an honor.
Absolutely. It wasn't even a question in our mind. You're always going to be one of our Sheros. We always start our interview with kind of checking in with you and how is everything going? How are you doing?
I'm all right. I took a little bit of time out of court over the summer, and now I'm starting to go back into it. So I'm sort of trying to achieve that balance between business, life, and court. And yeah, but I'm enjoying sort of doing a bit of everything again. That's nice.
I can imagine there is a lot of balancing with everything that you're doing. You're doing so much all the time.
Yeah. I'm trying to be kind to myself and trying to ensure I don't take on too much, enough to be able to do a good job and to enjoy what I'm doing and not to sort of regret how much I've signed up for. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying all these different aspects now.
Okay. And other than this interview, obviously, what's the number one thing that you're most excited about in life right now?
What am I most excited about in life right now? I think I'm still enjoying the fact I get to see people and touch people. I went to the theatre for the first time in ages last week and was just really just enjoyed the experience of being there. I was signed up to the National Theatre at home. Actually, I think they were playing them for free over lockdown, but then I signed up for the National Theatre at home. I was watching a lot of plays at home. So I'm excited to be able to just go to the theatre and see things there. I think that's what I'm most excited about at the moment.
I agree. I mean, I went to see Fleabag in the theatre in January. And then right before lockdown started. And so I hadn't been in the theatre for such a long time and went back last month to see Hamilton. And it was such an amazing experience. It was everyone in the audience was just so excited to be there. So it made everything so much better because everyone was just so happy to just
I think the energy of the audience definitely makes a difference. I haven't seen Hamilton yet, but I've heard amazing things. So yeah, maybe that's next on my list.
Yeah, definitely recommend it. So we are almost at the end of 2021. I can't believe I'm saying that.
I know. How is that even possible?
Yeah, no, I keep saying it's like 2020. So I'm really not used to like being able to say 2021, not 2022 is not even a thing for me yet. But we are almost coming out of our second year of pandemic. That's another sentence that I can't believe I'm saying.
Yeah.
Has there been one thing that you've learned during these crazy 2 years?
During the pandemic? I think the pandemic, in many ways, was a gift in a sense, because I think it provided an opportunity for us to pause for a moment and reflect on the way that we were living before. And while we missed a lot of aspects of our previous lives at the time when everything stopped, our family, being able to socialize, the way we worked and that kind of thing, I think it also allowed us to, appreciate certain things that we didn't have time for before, and to just to have a moment to pause and think about what our lives were like previously, and then when everything started restarting, to think about whether we wanted that to carry on. And I think the pandemic, while it's been so difficult for everyone in so many ways and to varying degrees, I think there are some good and some bad aspects of it, in that it's provided that time to pause, because otherwise we would have just carried on indefinitely. So I think in that sense there's been some gift in it, and personally it provided me an opportunity to actually launch Ivy Normanton, and to sort of try and sort of work out a way of being at the bar and running a business. And trying to find some balance in my life as well.
Mm-hmm. Are you kind of positive? Are you feeling positive about the post-pandemic? Do you think we'll kind of learn from these things and kind of change, adapt our behavior? And I'm talking individuals and institutions and governments as well. How are you feeling? Like positive or?
I think we are all changed.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're all changed by what we've been through.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there will be some of us who are more proactive in trying to, you know, enact changes in our lives and reflecting on that change and what we want in the future. I mean, there's a lot of people who, I mean, I was reading about this, like there's sort of an epidemic of people wanting to change their jobs and, you know, go off to the countryside and buy farmland and all this kind of thing. And I think there'll be some, you know, unsettling while we sort of try and reshuffle ourselves. But I think there is a human compulsion to consume, to enjoy, and I don't know if we will necessarily take all the things and the lessons that we loved during lockdown and do them permanently. I think we may try for a time, but I don't know. I think there's such there's such a sort of compulsion to just fill your hours, to fill your days, and you know, and it's hard to keep saying no. Actually, I really enjoyed the peace and the quiet and being able to hear the birds sing and not traveling everywhere all the time. I think our impulse is just to get really busy again. I don't know if we will all be permanently changed. Maybe.
Hopefully. It made me love the farm thing because I had the other way around. I've been a city girl my entire life, and during lockdown I was at my partner's house in the countryside. It was fantastic for 3 months, and then I just wanted to run away. So
yeah, that's my fear. You see, I have this very deep sort of longing to go buy a cottage in Dorset and live by the sea, but I've also grown up in the cities, and I'm just really concerned that I'll do it one day and then just sort of sit there and just go, I can't stand this. I can't stand to be here a moment longer, and I've just thrown up my whole life. Yeah, that is.
I mean, it's personal. Maybe you will love it. For me, it was
I don't know.
I wanted this farm so much, and then realized that it's so much hard work. I was like, my goodness, I'll admire and love animals from afar. I think that's what I kind of ended up agreeing with myself.
Yeah, I think that's the concern as well. Like, we stayed at this cottage in the Isle of Wight at some point, like some months ago, and in many ways that was the sort of like ideal little life that I had imagined, but then it was just so dark and still. I just imagined, like, and so old, I just imagined that there were ghosts everywhere, there were killers in the forest coming to get us, and I just couldn't sleep. I think some car alarm went off and I just found this deep sense of peace.
Noise.
I just need some noise.
I love that. I love the ghosts, especially. That's going to be my favorite part of this interview now. Just you discussing ghosts on the Isle of Wight.
I'm a totally irrational person, don't worry.
I completely diverted from the interview. So let's go back into it. Let's dive into Ivy Normanton. You've already mentioned it. I am so excited to discuss this with you because obviously, you know, I'm such a fan. I'm always emailing. And my hope is that in the future, I will be able to buy my entire work wardrobe from you, just so you know.
That is my hope also.
Yeah, I mean, suits, I'm struggling finding suits. And every time I think like, oh, I just need this to happen. No pressure. But I have so many questions about Ivy Normanton, but I'll start with the inspiration. So what was your inspiration for studying Ivy Normanton?
So I come from a sort of family of dressmakers in a way. My grandmother, when she came over from Cyprus, she worked in a factory making wedding dresses, and that was my mum's side. And my dad's side, they had a little manufacturing business as well. And then when I was growing up, my dad was a clothes manufacturer, in Romania. That's where I worked. And so I've grown around needle and thread and you know, clothing my whole life, but I was never encouraged to go into it. I didn't want to go into fashion. I really wanted to go into law and to, you know, make a difference through the laws, you know, very interested in social justice always. When I finally got pupillage, I was a pupil with 2 other men, and we got through our first 6, and then it got to the cusp of our second 6, and we were going to be on our feet. And I wanted to buy myself a shirt because I felt like I felt like they looked good in their shirts, you know, my other co-pupils. And there was something so sort of smart and formal about putting on a collar and shirt when you get to court. And I wanted to look as good as they did. And so I went to go buy one. And I remember what was available just didn't fit properly. It fit like a sort of school shirt, you know, that kind of bag, straight down the side. It doesn't taper in at the waist. And it was just so expensive. I couldn't really afford it on my criminal pupil wage anyway. And I just remember sort of thinking this could be so much better. And I was offended as well by how small the range for women was. And I just remember thinking this could be so much better. This could be so much better. And so I, you know, used up whatever little money I had and just bought one of everything. And sort of decided to do something about this, and sort of went to my dad and was like, these are what these garments are, and these are what I want to do with them. And I spent a long time listening to what the chatter was in the advocates room. You know, one of my co-pupils was talking about how her collarette, her hair kept getting caught in the Velcro at the back. And so I was like, all right, so your hair gets caught in the Velcro at the back. And then I was seeing other women, like professional women, safety pinning their collarettes to their tops, putting like holes in your tops so that your collarette wouldn't rise up. And I was thinking, this is ridiculous. And, you know, there was even a point at which I remember being in Central Criminal Court with like a needle and thread and some herringbone tape, like trying to sew some tabs on my collarettes during lunch, and my pupil master was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just trying to work something out. So, you know, this took 4 years of tweaking and trying to work out how to bring this vision to life. But I never wanted to be less than. I just thought, I've worked so hard to get here, and I didn't want to be less than my co-pupils. And I didn't see why the women who I was around should feel less than, or should have less than their colleagues, because we work just as hard as them. And it seemed an insult to me that this uniform that we have worked so hard to have the right to wear should somehow be less than our male colleagues. Because I believe clothes and uniform, they're a signifier. And it seemed wrong to me that after 100 years, women are still, the male uniform was still the default. So, you know, clothing in this sense was important. And I wanted to fix this seemingly innocuous issue, but I wanted to fix it. And that's hopefully what I'm doing with Ivy Normanton.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many stories in relation to clothing myself. I mean, I keep going to shops asking for like the suit section, and I'm constantly, maybe my partner is with me, he's a man, so I'm constantly directed in the male section because that's where the suit section is, obviously.
Yeah.
Why would I think that there is a suit section for women?
Yeah.
And again, in when I have to go to court wear shops because maybe there's something that you're not providing yet, I'm so upset in seeing where the barrister's gown and wig is. It's always in the male section of the shop.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. And I mean, I don't get it. I absolutely can't get my head around it.
I mean, in a world where, you know, the oceans are rising and there's forests are on fire and all this kind of thing, it seems like a very small thing. But if it is such a small thing, why can't we just fix it? You know, I mean, that is my dream with Ivy Normanton. I wanted to create a more diverse image of what a barrister looks like, you know, and clothing is not the biggest problem that women at the bar face. It's not the biggest problem, but it is a problem. And I just want women at the bar to have the tools they need to just get on with the job and to feel good in what you're doing. Because ultimately, a lot of us, we meet our clients at court or in a conference, we don't spend a huge amount of time with them. And there we have a small moment of time to make an impression and to get your client's confidence. And what you wear is often part of that, you know, because you're selling yourself to your clients. And if you feel confident and comfortable, then I think that is also evident in how you come across. But also there are problems that I think men haven't really thought about, you know, or no one's really turned their minds to, and I'm trying to address them, you know. I mean, that's partly why the court hijab came about. My friend Mariam, who's another barrister at Doughty Street, we went to university together, and she wears the hijab. And after I launched Ivy Normanton, she said to me, you know, you should really make a hijab. And I was saying, well, what's the problem with the hijab? And she was just saying, I just can't find one that is the right shape, that is the right size, that covers my hair properly, you know, that's the right material. You know, you're either sweating or or it's too thin and doesn't cover you properly. And I just thought, well, this is ridiculous. Like, this is what you wear every day. You shouldn't have to just be wearing the same one over and over and over, or just picking up scraps of fabric. So that's you know, we sort of worked together on that. I went and found a load of material like bamboo silk, which was this lovely, sustainable, beautiful material. And I took her all these different fabrics, including that, and she was trying them all on in her garden over lockdown. And she told me she really liked that one. So then, you know, I got her to give me her favorite hijab, and then sort of modeled it on that. And then that's how the INN like hijab came about. Just something to make sure that women who wear the hijab in court have exactly what they need. And, you know, I was in court the other day as well, and I noticed another hijab wearing barrister. She had her she was wearing hers tucked into her collarette, but because the collarette was too narrow, she had to wear it open at the back. So we've also expanded our neck sizes for the Ivy Normanton collarettes, so that it goes up to an 18 inch, so you should be able to tuck your hijab into it. And even if you've got like a slightly thicker neck, you don't have to worry about having to wear it open. And you know, it's these little tweaks, it's just these little tweaks that hopefully just enable people to be a little bit more comfortable. And that's what I'm trying to do.
You call it a small thing, a small problem. I mean, from the outside, what you're doing is absolutely fantastic, because it's making sure that everyone is accessibility at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If I don't have clothes for the profession that I'm meant to be kind of able to practice in, how can I do that?
Yeah.
It's massive and very appreciated.
Well, thank you. I'm hoping, you know, I'm ambitious. I've got, you know, I want to be able to address all the problems that we have, and I want to be able to make it as inclusive as possible, you know, going forward. I mean, I've been approached by people who are non-binary, and, you know, have sort of asked me what they should be wearing to court. And, you know, these are all the interesting issues that I don't think anyone's really turned their mind to before. And, you know, in this sort of day and age as well, I've also had to sort of sit and think about, what does it mean to be a woman in law, and that kind of thing. And these are the sorts of things that ultimately I've sort of been turning my mind to. But ultimately, I just want this brand to be as inclusive as possible, because we've got an important job to do. there's an important job to do, and I just want to give people the tools to be able to do it.
Absolutely, I love it. Can you tell me about the name, about the name Ivy Normanton?
Yes, so it's named after Ivy Williams and Helena Normanton, who were the first two women to be admitted to the English bar. Ivy Williams was the first, but she never practiced. And Helena Normanton was the second, and she actually practiced, and she became one of the first two King's Counsel as well, along with Rose Hilbron. Helena Normanton just got a blue plaque as well, through the efforts of the Doughty Street women in their next 100 years. And I think the Blue Plaque Association as well. I've actually got, these are Helena Normanton's original bands behind me, and this is Ivy, and this is an article about Ivy Williams's admission to the bar in 1922? No, I've forgotten the date now, but it's an article about Ivy Williams, and then those are Helena Normanton's bands.
That's fantastic. I see her portrait. What's the picture at the top? Is that
it's around, so they didn't give her a full page spread. They gave it's about some other sort of hypnotist.
Sorry, I just love that she's sharing the page with an hypnotist.
Yeah, she said, yeah, it's about this hypnotist who, through the power of suggestion, would sort of tell people to clasp their hands as tightly as they could and then just release them, but then through the power of suggestion people couldn't do it. So there's just a lot of women in this picture going like this.
What a great combo.
I know, it's very strange, but yeah.
So my next question is about an award you received last year. So last year you won Inspirational Women of the Year.
Under 35.
Under 35, which is even more impressive because you didn't have that much time to. So first of all, how does that feel?
Oh yeah, it's very nice. It's it's sort of so cheesy to say it's just an honor just to be nominated, but it is, there's so many amazing women at the bar doing incredible things, so to have any of my efforts recognized is just a very lovely feeling. It's a bit overwhelming. Overwhelming. I got quite teary when I got nominated, and then when I got picked as well.
Fair enough. No, and it's emotional. It's beautiful.
Too many feelings.
I love it. And I mean, how we touched really briefly on imposter syndrome before this call. Is that still there? So you just got this incredible award, and you're doing amazing work, and at the bar with your business. Do you still have imposter syndrome? Is that something that is still looming over you every now and then?
I mean, in various ways. I mean, what is imposter syndrome? I think imposter syndrome is somehow this idea that you're kind of not meant to be there, or you fooled someone into being there, into the position that you are in. And I think we all get that to some extent. But I mean, in terms of my work at the bar, it took me 4 years to get pupillage. I think I got it on my fourth go. And then I did an 18-month pupillage, and then I got tenancy for a year, and then I applied to Doughty Street, and then I had a sort of 2-year probation. Then I got through that, and the work I kept getting was steadily improving. And I think in the beginning of your career, when you're having a lot of rejection or a lot of failure, it's so much easier for you to think to yourself, I just can't do it, or there's a reason why I keep failing, blah blah blah. But then as you start getting on, there starts to build more of a body of empirical evidence which shows that you are able to do it, and you start winning cases, or you start doing things, and you start to develop more confidence in yourself. I definitely noticed a difference between my 20s and my 30s. and the confidence that I feel. And yeah, you know, there's days when I'm in court and, you know, there may be something I missed, or you know, it's rare, but yeah, then when there's, you know, something comes up and I just think, oh shit, what now? But, you know, everyone has that. Every single person has that, and that, you know, gives me some solace. And you know, I kind of, and there's been times when I just thought, if I don't feel confident, then I'll pretend to be confident. I spent a lot of my pupillage pretending to be more confident than I felt, because again, I didn't want, you know, the boys would never sort of walk in and be like, oh, I'm so not up for this, blah blah. So I'd walk in and be like, yeah, I bashed it out today, blah blah. You know, I didn't always feel that way. But you know, there were certain people I confided in, I was feeling rotten. And you know, after a while you start to feel more confident in what you're doing, because you start to feel like, I know what I'm doing. And with regards to the business, there's so much that I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. I am absolutely flying by the seat of my pants. But I also believe that there is nobody who could do this better than me right now. What I am doing is based on my experience, and it is, and I care about it so deeply, that even when I feel like I am floundering, it gives me confidence to know that it is important, and I don't think there's anyone who could really be doing it right now better than me. Even if I feel like I'm doing a crappy job some days, we're all just doing our best, aren't we? And that's all you really can do. But I don't believe that there is anyone who feels like they are awesome all of the time.
Mm-hmm. I love the tip of pretending to have straight white man confidence.
yeah, absolutely. I often said, you know, there's times when my sister's feeling, you know, a bit uncertain, and I'm like, you know, just pretend you're, you know, privileged white man. What would a privileged white man do in this situation? You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that boost that makes you, yeah, able to act the way you really want to. But kind of said we still have to go there with that stereotype and that need, but it is how it is in our society at the moment.
It's not, I'm not encouraging people to be arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. It's about confidence in yourself, you know, in what you have to say. We all have to make space for each other. But, you know, there's times when you think, I've got an idea, is it worth saying or not? And then there'll be a little voice in your head that thinks, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't. But why not you? You know, why not you? Why isn't your view worth hearing? Give it a go. Literally, what's the worst that could happen? What's the worst that could happen? You know, you look silly. So what?
I love it. And I'm going to do a kind of take a step back and ask you some questions about your childhood, because why not? You mentioned you always wanted to be a lawyer. And was it the case that since you were a kid, you knew you wanted to be a barrister, or was it?
No, I didn't know I wanted to be a barrister. I didn't have the confidence always to go for the bar. I think I was always quite inclined towards law. I was always, I used to get the 699 to school, and whenever I got on, that's when there'd normally be debates and, you know, arguments about something. So I always enjoyed sort of that aspect of things. And I always, you know, had causes I was really interested in, and, you know, it seemed to me that the law governed everything, and the people who knew about the law were in the best place to be able to make changes that could benefit people, and who could also stand up for people who didn't have, who weren't able to stand up for themselves. And that always seemed very noble to me, and very a worthy way to spend your life. So that was something that I really wanted to do. So yeah, that's how but in terms of actually getting to the bar, it took me quite a long time to feel confident enough to think that I could get there to become a barrister. and be good enough to speak for a living. That took a little while.
Mm-hmm. And what about the area of law? You practice in crime now.
Yeah.
Was that something you always wanted to do, or did you have other? I think you explore other areas before getting to crime. Is that correct?
I did. So I did mini pupilages in everything: family, immigration, public law, crime. I think I had an idea of what I was interested in, but I wanted to get some experience in these different areas and what it was like, so that before I committed myself to one wholeheartedly, I had some actual insight, which I really strongly advise people to do. I had someone contact me on LinkedIn the other day, and she was telling me how she wanted to be a commercial lawyer, desperately. And I was saying to her, do you know what they do day to day? Like, you need to, before you start committing yourself wholeheartedly to one course, I would really advise you to have some experience in what the work is, but if possible, ask what the lifestyle's like. I was very lucky to be able to spend a week with a friend's sister-in-law who's a criminal barrister, so I sort of saw what the work schedule was like as well. But yeah, I mean, I think when I was applying for pupillage, I was going for common law sets, general common law sets, and crime and public law. It wasn't really my intention to end up solely in crime, to be honest. I think I wanted to do more public law at the time. But my CV, you tend to, you go where you get pupillage, frankly, and I got pupillage in a crime set. And it's something I've just continued to really enjoy. I do really enjoy crime. It's something that I'm interested in and I'm good at, and so that's how I've sort of ended up there. I also do some professional discipline as well, and from time to time I'll do a little public law. But yeah, I think once you're in, there's more flexibility. There's more flexibility than there used to be. I think before, once you moved to a set, you stayed there forever. But now I think there's more of this idea that you can move around. So I'd really encourage people who have an idea of what area they want to go into to really explore what options there are. Apply to as many places as you can for pupillage, and then in your early years really reflect on whether this is where you want to be, because I think there is sometimes a danger that if you just end up doing one area for a very long time, people start to tell themselves, well, it's going to be too difficult to move or too difficult to change. But I think if you keep your mind flexible in the early years, then you give yourself more options later on.
Is that, do you think this is one of the most important pieces of advice for someone trying to kind of access the profession or thinking about becoming a barrister?
Oh, I don't know what the most important piece of advice are. I'm an absolute windbag. I mean, if you sat with me for long enough, I'd give you, I'd just be like, you should do this and you should do that. I think one of the most important things I would say to anyone contemplating a career at the bar who hasn't got there yet is, please don't tie your self-esteem to this process and whether or not you become a barrister or not, because it is to do with luck, it is to do with timing, and your value as a human being and your potential in the workforce is not, it does not hinge on whether or not you get pupillage and become a barrister or not. You will still be able to lead a full and happy life, even if you don't get to the bar, because there are a lot of people, it's not a panacea. As soon as you get to the bar, you are happy for the rest of your days. There are still challenges, and not everyone wants to stay. And the reason I put this, I think, to the forefront of my advice is because I didn't get pupillage straight away. I know what it is to have that kind of despair and that difficulty, to go through that difficulty of not getting it, and how awful it can feel. And so that's why I just really want people not to just tie their self-esteem to this process. It is a wonderful career, it is lovely, but it is not the only one. You can still do wonderful things with a law degree. And then when you are at bar, keep your mind, flexible, and go for it. Go for all the opportunities. Don't let your sort of insecurities just hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important.
Mm-hmm. And we touched on pupillage earlier on. Do you remember in your second six? Do you remember your first time on your feet?
No, I don't really, actually. I think I have PTSD. I think I've blocked it out. I remember standing in Chambers when I was given my first brief, and it was wrapped in tape.
Mm-hmm.
I remember holding it and just being like this. This is my first brief. My first brief. And I think I don't know if they still do that now. I don't see a lot of legal tape anywhere. Oh, it's so sad, because there is, and I still have a real affinity for legal tape. I try and use it in sort of any opportunity I can. Mm-hmm. Wrap gifts and legal tape. But I mean, I remember getting the brief, but I don't remember the first time on my feet. I think I blocked it out because it must have been too traumatic. I'm sure I won, but I can't remember on what terms.
Well, this is great for people that still are not there. They're getting there. You're giving a fantastic image of what your first time will be like.
I know, you made us block it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know of friends that felt sick on their first day in court because they were so nervous, and so it's clearly can be quite traumatic.
The thing is, though, I mean, I think there is nothing so terrifying. No, I think people in the medical profession who have people's lives in their hands, and people who are very like politicians sometimes, who are very much in the public eye, those are terrifying and huge responsibilities. But I mean, I think having someone's life in your hands in court is some of the most terrifying experiences you can go through. And if you survive that and you come through the other side, I think it gives you an enormous confidence. Because also, I mean, part of what has given me confidence to start this business is because I think of some of my worst days in court. I just think nothing can be worse than that. And I survived it. So if I survive that, God,
I can do anything.
And even in days when I'm sort of a little bit anxious in court, I think, well, I remember that horrific case, and if I survived that day, then I must be able to survive this one.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I have a couple of completely random questions for you.
Go for it.
I'm going to just throw them at you. So what's the one food anyone could always find in your kitchen?
Oh, wow. Probably beans, actually.
From
great source of protein, very versatile. Not baked beans, but I mean sort of some sort of cannellini. I can't think of any other. Butter bean. That's so boring, isn't it? Yeah.
Could have been water, so it could have been worse. Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of tea, there's a lot of coffee, and there'll probably be some beans. Yeah.
Okay, good to know in case someone is invited for dinner. What's the best movie that you've watched recently?
Oh no, I just thought of that one. What's the best movie I watched recently? I'm trying to think of any movie I watched recently.
I mean, you went to the theatre. What did you go to?
I'll tell you, I watched The Ocean at the end of the lane, or The Ocean at the end of the street. I think it was either written or recommended by Neil Gaiman, who I really like because he's got a sort of fantastical. I like things that are quite fantastical. Yeah, because often it gives you sort of better dreams as well. when you sort of surround yourself by sort of wonder and fantasy. I always find it sort of makes you feel a little bit more creative as well. Something why I really like October and Halloween, because I feel like it's a time of real storytelling, and I love stories and things like that, real sort of imagination. I feel like it's a nice counterpoint to some of the kind of facts, the factual aspect of the work that we do. And I like that counterpoint.
Can you do horror stories as well? Because you're really see ghosts. So I wonder
I
what.
know, I don't see ghosts. I'm frightened of them.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah. Is that
I
worse?
don't know if this is what I want putting out there. Oh, it's out there now. Yeah, no, I like creepy things, but I tend to think like I tend to sort of have like a thematic sort of approach to my reading. Like October, I want things that are kind of creepy.
I love that.
And then, you know, other months I want things a little bit more, you know, balmy in the summer.
I love that. To be fair, I think I do the same kind of unconsciously. You pick.
Yeah. And maybe you want a bit more period fiction in the winter. You know?
Okay. Well, I mean, if you're interested in fantasy, at the moment there is Dune out.
There is Dune, yeah. I need to have a look at that. I'm kind of a little bit particular about my fantasy. It's not all the fantasy, but certain I like kind of like fantastical.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, no, Dune is that. I think I do want to see Dune. I really want to see French Dispatch.
Yeah.
I think I just want to live in a Wes Anderson film. Don't we all?
I mean, you're working on it with your little John friend.
I know. I'm not very barristerial when I'm off. That's a problem.
No, it's not a problem. That's good. Colors. I feel like if we could add colors in the courtroom, I would be very happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay, my next random question. What's your happiest memory?
Oh, what's my happiest memory? Do you know what? It was really smart. So I went to Greek school. So my family's Greek Cypriot, and I went to Greek school every Wednesday evening and Saturday morning from about the age of 5 to 15. And I remember the day that I finished my Greek school GCSE, because that was only as far as I had to get. And I think I was 15. I wasn't like allowed out a lot when I was young, you know, not from a very early age, but after the exam, my mum let me get the bus to my friend Eleni's house, and we ordered pizza and sat in the garden, and it was just this euphoria, this freedom that I didn't have to go to Greek school anymore, and that independence. I think it was the first moment of real like freedom and independence that I really felt, and it has always really stayed with me. It was a very special day, I think. Yeah.
That's lovely. Freedom and independence. You probably were feeling like very adultish as well, being like,
I think so as well. And then they tried to get me to do the A level, and I was like, no way.
Done.
Done. I've had my life-changing moment. I can't go back and have another one. No thanks.
I love that. So on to these are our last questions. I promise I'm going to let you go. And I just want to touch on things we should change within the profession. Yeah. And I'm sure you have a lot to say about this thing. So I just wonder, I'll start with asking, how does it feel, and what does it mean to be an intersectional woman at the bar? What's the kind of main feeling of it?
I suppose the intersectional aspect of myself is the fact that I come from an immigrant background. And, you know, my parents didn't go to university. No one really in my family went to university. And we didn't know a lot of lawyers. There wasn't, you know, people to help me out. There wasn't a lot of nepotism to be had anywhere. And I do remember going for a mini pupillage once and someone telling me that my name might hold me back, or that there might be times that I'm rejected for my name, you know, being Karlia Lykourgou. And yeah, I just remember being kind of a little bit surprised by that. But yeah, I mean, I suppose that's maybe my experience there. That's sort of the experience that I've had to that extent. But I mean, since I've joined the bar and got there, I think I can see more effort over time to try and make things more equal for people who haven't had as much assistance. You know, there was a real time when I felt that if I didn't go to Oxbridge and have a first, this just wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't going to happen, and it was really disheartening. And now I see, you know, more organizations that are just trying to level the playing field. And even, you know, when I was at 3 Temple Gardens, when we were looking at pupillage applications, they would blank out what school you went to, what your gender was, what your age was. And I think those sorts of efforts to try and you know, prevent not only bias but unconscious bias are positive. But we're not completely there yet. I think that there are real inequalities, because a lot of when people are applying to get into this profession, you need a lot of what their chambers are looking for is experience, you know, and the quality of your experience. And someone who's able to take, you know, go do unpaid internships and things like that will have a certain level of experience to someone who can't afford to have that. And, you know, when I was looking at these applications, I'd always really try and take that into account and sort of think, well, this person has, you know, 10 years running a pub, and you know, that takes a lot of you will have learned skills doing that, you know, before you decided to go to the bar, and what strength of character to be able to do that, you know. But it depends on who sometimes is marking your paper as to what value they place on your level of experience. And that's why I say there's an element of luck in this as well. You have to, there will be some chambers who place a higher value on your experience than others. But I think when I do talks to students, I say, we don't all start in the same place. This is a race, and we don't all start in the same place. There will be some of us who are further ahead than others, but it is still a race worth running. You need to constantly be thinking to yourself, what can I be doing to improve my position? How can I be working towards this goal that I have? You can't, you know, wish your way or sigh your way to your dreams. You may be someone who just hasn't had some of the advantages someone else has, but there are things that you can do to try and improve your position. I remember when my position was, I didn't have much legal experience or connections, or I was constantly trying to improve my CV in those 4 years while I was working to getting pupillage. You know, at one point I was like attending, I joined like the Haldane Society. I attended their Christmas party, which was at Garden Court, and I like managed to like schmooze one of the barristers there into going for a coffee with me. And then I got like I don't know how I managed to twist their arm to give me some part-time assistant work. So then I was an assistant at Garden Court, and at the same time I applied for this volunteering position at Reprieve, and so I was volunteering there 3 days a week and working at a pub as well. And then I managed to get, you know, a paid position came up, and then at Reprieve, and then through there I managed to like find some other volunteering position. I managed to enter a paid position, and I was doing 3-4 jobs at a certain point just to try and, you know, keep bumping up my CV. I mean, it was just constantly trying to improve my position. That's what I tried to do. But I think in terms of us who are already at the bar, I think we need to be trying to constantly reach down and try and bring people up, and constantly try and support. And I try and help and support people as much as I can as a barrister, those coming up. But with Ivy Normanton as well, what I try and do is try and portray more diverse images of what it is to be a woman in law, because I think it is important to try and to see yourself in the profession that you want to go into. I remember when we launched the INN hijabs, we had a lot of messages from people saying, thank you so much. Because it was at the time when France were restricting the wearing of the hijab. And for us to put something out that was showing how welcome, you know, women who wear the hijab were in the profession, and that we wanted to make their life easier, I think that meant a lot to some people. And, you know, when we're sort of creating photos and images for the brand, I try and make it as diverse and inclusive as possible. And I try and stay, you know, abreast of some of the issues that are going on in the profession as well. Because it's important that people feel welcome in this job. I don't want anyone to feel as though they can't do it or they're not welcome because of who they are.
Yeah. I mean, I can identify with so much that you were just saying. I had 2 years of work experience before starting my BPTC, and I was juggling 4 different jobs at the same time. And every time in all of my pupillage interviews, I was asked why I didn't have more mooting experience. And I was just so shocked, because you would think they can see that I didn't have maybe after studying or after like classes, because I was doing different jobs, but in the kind of, that's the tunnel vision a little bit. It's like, oh, you have to check the box of having, I don't know, 4 different mooting experiences, or there is, it's all about boxes. It's not really.
It is. I mean, so I think it is so hard, and some people have it so much harder than others. But you can also consider, you know, if you don't get pupillage the first time you go, think of this as a war. You're getting better over time. You know, the first year maybe you didn't have enough mooting experience. The next year you apply, you try and rectify that for the next year. You know, you're constantly trying to improve your position. I think. But yeah, no, it is very difficult. And I had some financial help. I was able to stay at home. I didn't have to worry about my rent. I had some of my school fees paid. And I think it's important to acknowledge that, you know, because I think sometimes people are like, yeah, I just worked really hard and I just managed to achieve it. And they don't acknowledge like the actual advantages you had. I had some financial help, you know, and I'll be honest about it. You know?
Yeah. That's necessary, because otherwise, again, I guess when you take away information from a CV, there is still stuff that could be kind of interpreted as bias there, right? Because you don't know what advantages someone has had.
Yeah, I mean, that's yeah. I mean, I think there is a form that you can fill out with your pupillage form, which will indicate if you've, you know, what difficulties you may have had as well. I think the process is difficult, because I can understand why chambers want to get the best candidate, but essentially what you're also trying to do is to assess potential as well, and what this person could turn into. And I think what we need to do is we need to also place a value on soft skills that this person may have learned in other areas as well. Like if you're juggling 4 jobs, what kind of drive does that demonstrate, you know, to be able to do that? What sort of commitment, and what skills are you learning, you know, even in your retail job, and how to deal with people? Do you know how important that is in the criminal law profession? Just be able to deal with people, and to find practical solutions. Yeah, I think sometimes it's just about finding the right place for you who will appreciate those sorts of skills.
Yeah. And I think you really see that when it comes to the pupillage process as well. I think I kind of went with your approach to pupillage applications, which was just apply to everywhere. And when it came to interviews, there were some places that you could feel that it just wasn't meant to be, from the person, and but you still try, and
I think so. I don't believe you can just sigh your way to, you know, your dreams. Like you have to just make it happen, and you need to be constantly trying to work out, what's my strategy, where do I need to get to, what tools do I have to help me get there, what am I missing, and how can I you know, fill that gap. And I think that's a process that you should be constantly thinking about.
Strategy game.
Yeah.
I have just 2 questions left.
Don't worry,
and on a really positive notice, sorry, not notice. I'm not giving you a notice. I wanna end on a positive note.
Yeah.
And my question is, what's the best part of being intersectional woman at the bar?
The best part, I think, I think we bring our own experiences to what we do. I think, you know, having come from a background where my grandparents were strangers in this land, my dad came over as a refugee, you know, I think sometimes there's an element of connection with other people whose family are not born and bred here, you know. And I think sometimes they're glad to have that element of to feel as though there's someone who maybe understands that about them. I think that's important. I mean, my friend Mariam as well, sometimes we talked about this, and you know, when she shows up and she's got a Muslim client, I think they are relieved sometimes to see her, because they feel that she may understand them in a way that someone not from their background may not do. And in terms of the aspect of being a woman at bar, I think that women have so much to offer in this profession. In terms of this, I mean, I think everyone is different. I don't just want to stereotype, but you know, I think a lot of women have a lot of empathy and emotional intelligence as well. And I think there are times when I've been able to be there for a client, sometimes in a way that, you know, maybe a man might not have done. My friend's not my friend, my friend, my client's mother, you know, she asked me for a tampon in court the other day, and I was just like, no problem, absolutely. And you know, I thought, you know, if you had a male client, you know, you would feel a bit uncomfortable about that. But I think that's why I just think we all have something to offer. You know, maybe there's a client who might have been more comfortable with a man one day, but you know, there is something that we all have to offer. And I think the beauty in being a woman at the bar and sexual woman at the bar is sometimes this camaraderie, this feeling of camaraderie, and sometimes support between us all, which is nice.
Yeah. Last question. Do you have, we always ask this because we keep getting amazing kind of tips and advice on this, so I keep asking this to all of our Sheros. Do you have a favorite book or movie, or it could be a play that you would like to plug?
Can I say, well, I'm in the Revels this year, so I feel like I need to plug the Middle Temple Revels. If this goes out before December,
we have this plugged, so I love it. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug Middle Temple Revels. I can't remember when it is, sometime in December, but get a ticket. It's a satirical sketch show.
We'll find it. We can advertise.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Karlia, thank you so much for taking the time. It took a little bit longer than expected.
It was my pleasure. Thank you so much for thinking of me.
And I hope people can see the jumper. I mean, they will be able to do that in the video. Hopefully, if
purple mohair.
I love it. You are out of a little Wes Anderson movie there, so it's perfect. I appreciate it, and it's very energetic, just like you. It's a beautiful energy. So, yeah, thank you again for chatting with me this morning. And yeah, we will plug everything that you've mentioned, and obviously Ivy Normanton is always plugged on them.
Thank you, darling. I very much appreciate it. I hope you got everything.
I have.
All right, best of luck with your pupillage, and give me a shout if I can ever be of assistance.
Thank you very much.
Okay.